Welcome to a weekly forecast here from a different place. Anybody who's used to my channel knows a certain background that I have. Just imagine an owl in the background, okay? I'm actually coming to you from Park City, Utah, where I've been for the last 4 or 5 days. An amazing astrological retreat that I was involved in. Organization of Professional Astrologers, OPA, had the retreat. It was amazing. I'm flying out here soon, but I thought I'd do a quick weekly for you all, okay? So let's jump right in. I'm making this here on the 21st of October. Uh, Something I seems so subtle, but I think is big for me is later on here on Monday Pacific time at 3:49 p.m. The moon will enter Cancer. Now, why am I pointing this out? It is because in the next 2.5 days, the moon in Cancer, in one of the most important aspects it will make, will touch and make a conjunction with Mars in Cancer. And if you've been following, you watched my last week's video when we had the massive, in the past transits, the massive Aries full moon that happened. It's explosive. It was squaring the 24-degree sun in Libra, moon in Aries, and Mars was there at like 22, 23, squaring the whole situation. Now here comes the moon to continue the story, and it will pretty much touch Mars along the way and a lot of the other planets that are involved in the narrative. That happens at 3:49, and late tonight into tomorrow, Mercury in Scorpio, yes, it's still in Scorpio, speaking its truth and investigation and private eye and obsessing and fixating on something with the mind and getting at the heart of things and acquiring the deepest points of data will make a trine to Saturn and Pisces here. That happens Pacific time, 11:34 p.m. on the 21st. And for those in the 22nd, now some of what Mercury's been acquiring in Scorpio is solidified by Saturn. Saturn being in a water sign Pisces, they make a harmonious 120-degree trine. Saturn gives structure and form to the messages that Mercury and Scorpio are using and obsessing about and investigating and getting to the point. A really constructive way to use Mercury in Scorpio, Saturn and Pisces. Saturn and Pisces in the mix in a lot of things here, right? And soon, very soon here, Saturn will start to move forward out of its retrograde cycle. So a lot of the messages and the things that Saturn is helping Mercury solidify, putting it into words, putting it into form, for it to be unleashed at some point here too, to be said with exact preciseness. Could be cold for some people, but from the water level, from two planets and water signs, we're putting words to the emotions. This is happening while the moon is in the water sign of Cancer. So you see what's happening here. In a sense here too, they're working together. And you want to think about that here the next 2.5 days of using water and feeding yourself, giving, nurturing yourself, grounding yourself. What is the safe place for you to be you and to do whatever emotions that are running through you and to take care of yourself? But in it all is a Marsy situation in Cancer, and this is where it's contested. I still think the energy from the full moon in Aries, which is connected to the eclipse story, could bring things welling up to the surface. Maybe you could use Mercury and Scorpio and Saturn and Pisces to put a certain type of truth across that puts words to what you are feeling and what has been volatile. Okay, so basically we have that on Tuesday the 22nd. I'm looking at my notes here, make sure I look in the camera. We have moon starts to make interesting aspects. The moon will square the north node in Aries at 3:09 a.m. and then one of the big transits of the week is the sun in Libra is square Pluto in Capricorn at 29 degrees. We're pretty much at the last degree of the Libra birthdays. And here where the sun, or where the sun in Libra has to deal with the power and the truth of Pluto. We have control and obsession involved in here in this situation. And the sun in Libra is tested. There in a sense is like a answering to. not a Saturnian answering to, a Pluto answering to. And that could be the ultimate answering to something, a certain type of being looked at and like, did you do this? Did you do that? There's a judgment here of some sort in play. And Pluto puts that force on the Libra sun. 20, if you're a cardinal sign that has 28, 29 degrees, this is big. And as people know, I've been following the Pluto and Capricorn transit here since 2008. This is a big moment at 29 degrees and another step here as we go towards the election and political outputs and so on and so forth. But really, kind of some last pieces of the story of the Pluto and Capricorn story, and until we get to Pluto going back into Aquarius at 0 degrees. Be careful of this one if you have degrees in cardinal signs here. You could see the sensitivity here. Moon in Cancer in a cardinal sign, so on and so forth. Again, use Mercury in Scorpio and Saturn. Then at 3:14 p.m., Tuesday the 22nd, hurrah. I always like it when the Scorpio birthday starts. It's happy birthday to you, Scorpio. Scorpio risings, but you know, Scorpios, I look out for you. I love you. And at the same time, get it together, will you? If you're living the dark game and manipulating and playing weird, obsessive things that are not positive, whatever, you need to stop right now, okay? I'm talking to you. You know what I'm saying? I have to be truthful with you. So just to say that, it's a happy birthday. So later in the day, Moon will trine Saturn in Pisces. So in a sense, the Moon here is kind of adding into the Mercury and Saturn trine that I talked about, right? And then the Moon will trine Mercury officially at 5:21 p.m. You see what's happening here. Full water story, like pretty much grand water trine in effect. And then at 7:37 p.m. here on Tuesday the 22nd, we have Venus in Sagittarius trining the North Node in Aries that just had the Moon earlier in the day square it. So fire gets with fire here. North Node in Aries, ruled by the Mars in Cancer. Venus in Sagittarius is like, we're on the adventure. The Aries North Node inherently, wherever Mars is, has been in an eclipse story for a year and a half now. It's going to turn into. Mars wants to impose its will on the world, and it needs to, on a survival, instinctual, impulsive level, put itself out there and take the risks. Okay, so basically, we're kind of coming to the close here until we get to the first week of January of the North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra story, a Mars Venus story. So here, Venus in Sagittarius comes in to give the push, fires off its arrow into the direction to help the North Node in Aries, and they're on the quest and the adventure, and the wind's in their face, and they're on the quest, and they like this because they like being on quests, okay? Fire signs do. So we have that. When we get to the 23rd, the Moon in Cancer continues its story by squaring Chiron in Aries. So we're on a questing phase in one sense, but there's sensitivity too involved here in the background with the Moon making all these aspects. That will happen 5:14 early in the morning on Wednesday the 23rd Pacific time. And then the Moon continues, and this is what I'm getting to, a massive point here that we're building up to 2:19 p.m. Pacific, where the Moon officially will make its conjunction with Mars in Cancer. And I feel that I don't want to do full prediction, but I feel like the next couple days leads to this full moon that we had a week ago in the eclipse story, and I feel like the explosiveness that we talked about, the costliness, the battle, the make or break, sword and shield, as I said on my last video, I think fully comes into play here this week. And I'm looking to see with certain people out there, clients, and politically, something getting set off. I think here the Moon hitting Mars, just Moon in Cancer will show all the feelings. It depends individually how you've been processing and whatever tools you've been using to process feelings. And then Mercury and Scorpio and Saturn involved. This is the go-to place of where you can constructively say something that is compassionate, at the same time pinpointed truth that Mercury Scorpio has to deal with emotional feelings. So can you make the balance and still speak emotionally, right? But we know how that can get. It get really sore for people and people's buttons getting pushed, and everyone's stressed, right? Everyone's wondering what's going to go on, and in the background, we just have a lot of uncertainty, right? So take that into account, okay? And if you need to take time to construct your expression of your emotional state, or just remember your go-to tools to ground yourself. But the moon hits Mars, and that can get cutting and elimination situations that continue of some of those stories I've been talking about last couple of weeks. So that's basically later in the day. Then at night, we get a break with the moon in Cancer, because then it makes a trine to Neptune, and it gets all ethereal. And Neptune washes away the costliness of Mars and the edges, and wants to dissolve those. And maybe you take that bath and you make yourself that cup of tea after the last week and a half. If you haven't done it yet, go back to it. Take care of yourself. Sometimes you don't know the answers to questions. Sometimes you can't put the words to the emotions yet, even though we have some supportive aspects this week that deal with that. But sometimes you still have to sit with things. And even if you do communicate on an honest, truthful level using Mercury in Scorpio and Saturn in Pisces, then you got to push back and take a break and then recoup, replenish. Moon trine Neptune will do that, and it will hit dreamland for you. You know what I mean? So, and then to end it off, it's complex this week. The moon will be at the end of its journey through Cancer, only to be opposite Pluto in Capricorn in 29 degrees. And we have a Persephone story playing out here. And for those who are cardinal at 28, 29 degrees, you need to get a reading. You get a hold of me, because I'm used to dealing with this. I know good remediation tools we can come up with to surf and navigate through these things. Pluto imposing its will and its judgment and unearthing the poisons from the underground with a Cancer moon. And so here, if one can constructively, after what I've just said for 2 days, get to a place of like the ultimate truth and knowing needs to be flushed away, especially with the Cancer archetypal story of what's going on with Mars and Cancer these months, and this retrograde we're going to do all the way to next spring. You can kind of do a little exercise in a positive way of using Pluto, to use the Pluto on one side and the Cancer moon on the other, and branch them two together so they can work together to help push out and flush out the poisons that Pluto is exposing. So again, if you specifically have things in cardinal signs like Cancer and Libra, Capricorn, right? So on and so forth, Aries, this affects you. There's a lot of cardinal energy this week. You're catching it now. And so cardinal energy likes to initiate, but a lot of times there's a certain type of thing that needs to move and be on a set course. Luckily, Mercury's in Scorpio to focus on that set course, and we have the Scorpio birthdays that are starting to push this along, okay? What else? Thursday the 24th, moon, eventually we go into Leo moon. And then I'll point out one aspect here to keep this video on the shorter end of things. Mars in Cancer on Thursday the 24th Pacific time at 5:13 p.m. Mars in Cancer will make a sextile to Uranus in Taurus. There's an opportunity here. It needs to be grabbed and cultivated. A positive part of this cardinal week where Mars and Cancer can use the ingenuity, the erraticness, the surprise, the way Uranus works, the liberation qualities that it brings by hitting and cracking things open slowly or at times unexpectedly. Mars in Cancer receives that from Uranus and Taurus, an earth to water sign sextile, water lapping against an electrical earth space, to give it a different look, a different way of processing the Cancer story. Safety, security, family, but also, in a sense, how one could love. And I'm saying this because I had a conversation here earlier this week with a certain astrologer that I met who's German. And I find their info, I'll put it in a copy. An interesting thing about Mars and Cancer, and they had these influences in their chart about, in the end, what Mars and Cancer can do. From the open arms and the nurturing, and if the safe space is constructed and things are processed there, once that is and we feel grounded, we go out into the world and we can bring that into the world. And if it's about love, right, inherently, can that be brought out into the world and shown to the world and applied, right? And I think on a deeper level with this Mars and Cancer transit, it is about this, but I think it's rough going a lot of the way, right? And this week we get a clue of how those dynamics play out. If one is going to speak their truth emotionally, continuing an eclipse story and the explosive full moon story that happened in Aries, in relational Mars Venus activities, sometimes things are taken in. People get to a place where there's understanding, and from that place is growth, trust, and intimacy and love. It builds, right? It gets stronger. Other times it isn't, and it's bombastic and caustic, and isn't. It's about separation and about goodbyes, and I've been talking about goodbyes the last couple of weeks. Whatever the case is for you, try to remember in the long term, whether it's for yourself or the people that you love or the community that you're involved in the long-term game, when we're dealing with Pluto stories and Jupiter, Saturn squares, and the unpredictability of the world, can you get to a place, even in uncertainty, where your belly's full, you're warm, you do the best that you can with not knowing the answers to the questions and dealing with anxiety, but can you calm yourself down? And can you find that place of love and compassion within yourself? And then can you form that when you walk outside the door? And can you bring it into the world, even in the most contested, unpredictable times, it seems? I'm being hopeful. Cynical Nicholas is trying to find the way, and I'm not the only one. Coming at this conference with a bunch of astrologers and what we do to learn and to get better at our craft and to find a better understandings with ourselves and with our clients. Whether me, I speak the truth. Sometimes it's harsh. My live streams are different, but it's all coming from a place of positivity and to try to at least find understanding. It's up to you to figure out your own understanding and what you do with it. It's not easy, but can you find the hearth? And when things are weird, can you make that metaphorical bowl of soup or draw the bath for yourself or drink the tea to at least put you in a place as grounded as possible? Because then you're going to make decisions in your world, and where you make those decisions from is very important. So for how complicated things are and how complex it gets, you know me, it gets simple in the end, right? So try to think about that. I'm going to think about it this week. I might put up another video this week. I want to thank everybody who's watching. Thank you. I got some surprises coming your way, and I'm coming again from Park City, Utah. I'm going to do a little experiment here when I say goodbye. There's transits happening here Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe I'll do something later, but it's important the next 4 days is really tracking that Cancer moon and all the aspects it's going to make. Again, if you're looking to book a reading or whatever, you can hit the links in my copy and go check it out. I got some spaces here next couple of weeks, and then I don't have any time. So I have some bookings already. Besides that, there's some new videos coming, so on and so forth. Let's get to the real deal here. You're going to have to trust me with what I'm doing here when I say goodbye to you. We're going to do an experiment here, and it might get noisy and bright. And that's where I've been. And this has been my favorite tree talking to me this whole week in the wind. Jupiter in the sky, Aldebaran last night with this Gemini moon. And before that, some people call it the comet that's been happening out there. But this is where I am. This is the vibe I've been in learning. It's great to see everybody that I met here. If you're going to watch my channel, you met me this weekend. I know I'm backlit, but you met me this weekend. Good to see you. Thanks for coming to the channel. I know we're going to see each other down the road, okay? And again, I feel rejuvenated here, at least with my practice, and learn a lot of great things, okay? So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye to you all from Park City. Next time you'll see me, who knows? That's the Gemini life. But until next time, I'll see you on the next video.